I was talking to a property manager the other day, and they asked me what percentages of our leases we choose not to renew. I thought, that's kind of a good question. I don't even know if I know that exact number, but it entered into a conversation, a bigger conversation of when and why we don't want to renew a tenant's lease. Now, I think there's a couple things to keep in mind here. Number one is this: you want to have a documented non-renewal policy for your office. Should you choose not to renew an existing tenant's lease, you want to have a reason, even if it's an inner office doc that you can refer back to, is to say, hey, here's why we didn't renew this tenant's lease agreement. So here in Colorado, legally, we do not have to tell a tenant why we are not renewing their lease. So that's the first thing you want to find out for your state. Do you have to tell a tenant legally if you choose not to renew their lease? Do you have to tell them why you're not renewing that lease? Now, even if you don't have to legally tell them why, you still want to have a documented non-renewal policy, and here's why. What if you decide not to renew that tenant's lease because they're just a pain in the neck and they complain all the time? But that tenant goes to HUD and they say, you know what? I think they chose not to renew my lease because I have 4 kids. And HUD said, let's check that out. So HUD calls your office. Now you don't have to give the tenant a reason, but you are going to have to give a reason to HUD. So you want to have a documented non-renewal policy, and your documented non-renewal policy should say something like this. Ours says this: Grace Management reserves the right, and this is an internal doc, we don't share this with tenants. Grace Management reserves the right and will not renew the lease agreement of any tenant who engages, in our estimation, in any of the following behavior. So it's important to put in that terminology, in our sole judgment or in our sole discretion. We're the ones deciding if you engage in any of these behaviors. And number 1, sues or threatens to sue. Look, if you're going to threaten to sue because you're upset about something, I'm not going to renew your lease. Number 2, demonstrates rude, obnoxious, hostile, or threatening behavior, including phone message or email. So if tenants are doing that, when they're being aggressive, rude, obnoxious to your people, that should be a reason as well not to renew their lease. Number 3, demonstrates ongoing dissatisfaction with the property or level of services provided. If you have a chronic complaining tenant and they're never happy with you and they're always upset at you because of the job you do, don't renew their lease. That should be a reason for you to choose not to renew the lease agreement. And number 4, demonstrates non-compliance through lease violations or lease non-compliance. If they're continually violating the terms of their lease, that may be something as well that you decide not to renew a tenant lease on. Now, a big question is, well, what if they have paid late a few times? That's where it's a judgment call. If you have a tenant that pays 2 days late every month, but they always pay, maybe it's worth keeping them. If they're paying 20 days late every month, then maybe not. You need to make that decision as a business decision between you and your property owner and your tenant. But you want to have a non-renewal policy so that you can point back to reasons and not have to have a discussion on every lease, but you can just measure the tenant's behavior with your non-renewal policy. Get rid of the bad tenants, bring in a new one, and keep the business running smoothly.